Welcome back to MVM and Versus. In today's episode, I'm going to be comparing the classic midweight Euro game, The Voyages of Marco Polo, versus the brand new Spiel release, Marco Polo 2, in the service of the Khan. Now, the first thing you're going to notice are the numerous similarities between these two games. They're both designed by these same two designers and have the same artist contributing art throughout the entire game. Two games are very similar in nature, meaning that the mechanisms that are used to power the game's gameplay are mostly going to be found from one game to the next. So if you're familiar with the original game, you know you're going to be rolling your dice, using those dice as workers to enact various different actions out upon the board. In fact, looking at the board, you're going to notice a lot of similarities. You're going to start in one location, move across the board from city to city, traveling using camels, money, and other forms of payment to move across these areas, all the while trying to leave your trading posts on these locations in order to take the actions of those various spaces. Alright, so the very first thing that you're going to do, just like the original game, is you're going to take one of these player boards, all of your dice on your player board, all of your trading posts in the same location as the original, and then pick one of the characters in reverse turn order. Now, these characters work very similar to the original game. However, due to the nature of what you're doing in this game, the powers and the abilities are different from those in the first game. I'll let you explore the game yourself to figure out what all these characters do. However, let's talk about the differences between the two games outside of that basic setup. The first thing that you want to notice are the action spaces. This is what really makes this game different from the original game. There's numerous different action spaces where you're going to be placing your dice at the bottom of this board. Now, these are different from the original game, and the first thing you're going to notice across the bottom are the book spaces. Each of these locations are going to have places for people's dice to go to. These are going to allow you to do one of two very different things depending upon the die that you use in these locations. Most of these are going to allow you to collect the resource that is at the top of those particular areas. Now, that's very different from the market in the original game. However, there is another purpose for these different areas. You're going to notice Jade. Jade is a new resource in this game that is not only used for conversions in the books, but various different travel locations. Jade is also a wild resource in this game, meaning it can be used for any of the other resources in the game. So when you go to these locations, you're either collecting what is in the top or converting that jade as to what is on the bottom. Now, these tiles are all variable. They come in 3 different stacks, and these stacks are randomly going to be placed on the board at the start of the game, and new ones are going to be introduced on every single new round, meaning that every time you play the game, the conversions are going to be a little bit different from one game to the next. Now, the second action space that I wanted to point out today was down here, and these are the guild seals. There are 4 different types of guild seals, and you're only allowed to collect one from each of the 4 different stacks. Depending upon which die that you placed in these locations is going to dictate which one of those seals that you collect. Each of these seals are double-sided, meaning you have a basic side and you have an improved side. These guild seals have 4 very important uses within the game. First is on the back side. Once these guild seals are improved, the player will immediately collect the bonus of that particular guild seal. In addition, during each of the income rounds or at the end of the round, they're also going to collect what is ever on the back side. Each of these seals is going to provide different bonuses for the different seals that you have. Now, there are 3 other uses for these guild seals which are equally as important. Number 1, several of these locations require you to have very specific guild seals in order to cross from one location to the next. The third way that each of these guild seals can be used is that there are 3 special cities that grant you bonuses by placing dice in those locations and having an improved guild seal. These are going to allow you to take additional actions in those spots that you normally couldn't take. And the final use for these guild seals is that each of the objectives in the game are going to possibly provide you with some kind of bonus at the bottom of them, which are secret at the start of the game, depending on whether or not you were able to collect them and then improve them, granting you some victory points at the end of the game. And as you've already seen, travel in this game looks a little bit different than the original game. You're going to see a number of different locations that require those guild seals, and in order to travel, it's been handled just a slight bit different in this game as well. Across the bottom right-hand portion of the board are 3 locations where players can use to travel. This could possibly cost you some denominations of money, but also allow you to travel on X number of spaces according to the lowest die that you used. For instance, this is going to allow you to move 1 space, or 1 to 3 spaces, or 1 to 6 spaces according to the lowest die that you used in that area. Also, the player who is highest up on this track at the end of a round will be determined as the first player for the following round. So positioning in that is very important as well. The next minor difference are how contracts are acquired and used within the game. Some of these locations on the board will have locations where you can collect a contract, meaning that when you cross into that particular area and you've left one of your trading posts in the area, you will immediately collect one of the 2 contracts in that particular city. However, there is a new worker placement spot at the bottom of the board that will allow you as a player to collect 1 or 2 contracts, but only from the cities where you have a trading post. So you have to make sure that you move across the board in order to gain contracts from various different cities. City cards are also used a slightly bit different in this particular game. Just like the original game, you may have locations that have city cards where you can place your dice if you have a trading post in that particular location. However, during each of the rounds, 2 new cities will always be introduced at the bottom of the game board that anybody can go to. This is going to allow new action spaces to be open for everybody at the table during each new round of the game. Final scoring in the game is handled also a little bit different than the original game. Now, there's a number of different ways to score victory points during the game. However, at the end of the game, you can convert some of your resources to victory points, some of the money to victory points, as well as turn in any of the gold cards that possibly give you victory points according to the improved seals that you have. However, the other important thing is this track right here. The more cities where you've left trading posts that are unique, signified by these particular flags that you see on each of these different locations, is going to give you a particular set of points depending upon however many different flags you've attached trading posts to. All the changes that were mentioned here, along with some other small nuanced changes in the rulebook, plus the different characters and how you integrate them within the game, are going to make this experience both different, yet very similar. And in fact, the rulebook itself has several annotations marked by this symbol here that will direct you to the changes between the original Marco Polo to Marco Polo 2. Hopefully that will give you guys an understanding of the basic changes from here to Marco Polo 2. However, I'm sure you want to know my initial impressions of the game as well. And I don't feel like I'm quite there yet because I've only played Marco Polo 2 twice, and I've played the Voyages of Marco Polo over a dozen times. I will say this, these are 2 of my favorite designers, as well as Dennis Lauhausen, which is one of my favorite board game artists. So I have partial love of both of these games. However, Marco Polo has always been one of the lower rated games for me of their designs for a number of different reasons that only pertain to me as a gamer. One of those are, I think that the characters may be a little bit unbalanced in the 2-player game. Plus, depending upon the voyage cards that you get at the start of the original game, can greatly imbalance your positioning and your ability to score. Some of them are just better than others. I'm not sure if that exists in Marco Polo 2 because the goals aren't going from one location to the next, but more trying to get to multiple different locations at your own speed in order to collect the multiple different points that can be acquired through those flags. Plus, I feel like the game might be a little bit deeper than this game. I don't know for sure because obviously haven't played it enough times to see if that is actually true. But I like what this game is doing. I think it's really unique in the way that it takes the Marco Polo series and kind of introduces enough little nuances in the game to make it just a little bit different. One of the things I really enjoyed about this game were the guild seals. These 4 seals and how you acquire them, when you acquire them, is going to be very important to the actions and the areas that you're able to take within the game. Also, the improved sides are going to give you bonuses at the end of each of these rounds, which means that you have more ability to gain more of those bonuses and create an engine that is stronger throughout the course of the game. So those are just the very, very early opinions of the differences between these 2 games. If you have any questions about the game, please make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do, and we will catch you guys next time.